President Trump indicates he'll appeal the results of the recounts in Milwaukee and Dane counties. Wisconsin's Chief Justice has approved a reserve judge to oversee that appeal. Welcome back to Upfront. A lot going on, and we're continuing our discussion of President Trump's lawsuits seeking to overturn the results of the election here in Wisconsin. We're talking now with Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul. Attorney General, we appreciate you making time for us. And in light of all these updates, how far do you think these lawsuits will end up going?
Well, thanks for having me back on the show. You know, Trump's team recently filed a new version of the suit it had filed with the state Supreme Court in circuit court. That's the appropriate procedure for contesting an election result in Wisconsin. There's also a couple cases pending in federal court. But with all of these cases, the odds of success for the people challenging these are basically zero. We set election rules in advance, and while there is often litigation over what those rules are, once the election has happened and people have voted based on knowing what those rules were at the time, we don't subsequently go in our system and start removing validly cast ballots by voters. That would be disenfranchising Wisconsinites. And here, with a margin of more than 20,000 votes in the presidential election, it's just not possible that the result's going to change based on these suits.
And even if the result doesn't change, I mean, I get it. I know that you don't agree with these lawsuits, but do you think that they're shining a light on any election law that maybe should change, maybe you should look into?
I think that the practices we have in place in Wisconsin, generally speaking, are sound. I certainly personally would make some changes, but the way that you litigate those changes is not right in the immediate aftermath of an election after people have cast their ballots. You know, the campaign here is asking to disenfranchise over 200,000 voters. In another case, there's a request to entirely throw out the results and have the state legislature choose who won our election rather than the voters. That's not how our system works. So I think we should have debate about what our election policies should be, but that should happen in the legislature, and if there are legal challenges, well before elections.
You said you're interested maybe in some changes personally. Could you tell us what any of those would be? Would it perhaps be to change the definition of indefinitely confined? Because we know that people said they were who weren't in the election.
Well, I don't think we have a good sense of exactly how that's played out. I mean, there are more people who were listed as indefinitely confined in this election than had been in prior years, but that's no surprise because due to the pandemic, there are more people for whom it's not safe to go out and vote in person than it would have been before. So what I think we should be doing is working to expand access to voting in ways that are consistent with the security of our elections. We know from election after elections that we have very secure, reliable election processes in Wisconsin, but making it easier to register to vote by having automatic voter registration, for example, having nonpartisan redistricting in place so that we have voters choosing their legislators, not the other way around. Those sorts of changes and others, I think, are ones that we should be considering and hopefully we'll make some progress on.
So you've said that the president's baseless attacks are doing harm to our election system. What did you mean when you said that?
Well, the president, since the election, even before the election, has issued a series of allegations about the security of our elections that are absolutely false. There has not been a single vote that he has alleged in these suits that was cast by somebody who was not an eligible Wisconsin voter. And yet on Twitter, the president is talking all the time about fraud. We have election professionals around the state who did a lot of excellent work to make sure that we could conduct an election safely in a pandemic. And election day went very smoothly in Wisconsin this year. So the claims that our system didn't work well or that there's not integrity to it are absolutely false. And they promote distrust in the system, even though the system has worked very well.
And there's something I want to ask you about while I have you. So you're suing state lawmakers with a new challenge to some of the Republicans' lame duck laws that involve you getting approval from the Budget Committee of court settlements. So what gives you confidence that you could win this time?
Yeah, well, first, we are challenging a couple categories of settlements where the Department of Justice is pursuing an action on behalf of either a state agency, and when we bring those actions, that helps protect taxpayers in Wisconsin, or on behalf of protection of our environment or protection of consumers. We don't want a legislative committee getting in the way of resolution of those cases and getting justice for Wisconsinites. A similar issue was litigated before the state Supreme Court. And earlier this year, the state Supreme Court said, we're not going to strike down those statutes as applied to every application, but there may be applications where that statute is unconstitutionally applied. And it's our position that it's unconstitutional as applied to these categories of cases because they are inherently executive branch functions. They're not functions that the legislature has an appropriate role in. And I'm very confident about our odds of success in that case.
Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
The State Assembly Committee, doing its own investigation into Wisconsin's election, will hold its first hearing Friday. Our editorial partner, WisPolitics.com, keeps you up to date on election developments with a newsletter. Sign up for Battleground Wisconsin 2020 at WisPolitics.com. Next, the bipartisan appeal to stop the spread.